Welcome to another live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. What's going on, Akim? Glad to see you here. I decided to do this live stream after hearing from two of my Facebook friends who were comic artists and the hard times that they ran into. And I wanted to give those brothers some encouragement because I know what it is to wind up with people, giving you a hard time out here. And I also know about how sometimes you feel doubt about your own talent and ability. So I wanted to give those brothers some words of encouragement. And I wanted to talk about some of my experiences I have dealt with over the last 25 to 30 years as I have worked to build my SJS Direct imprint and my writing career. So I've been on this road for a very, very long time. I mean, I've been writing ever since I was 9 years old. So I know that there's a lot of people out there who, if they have a dream of doing comic books, books, writing stories, and I know that it's a really rough road. I've been on this road for over 30 years right now, and my advice for every guy out here is you just have to hang in there because eventually, at the end of the day, you're going to have something that you set out to accomplish, and you won't be able to accomplish that if you give up right now, because the only way you're going to get your dream to come true is if you continue to work on it and if you continue to believe in it. That's the only way you're going to get things done as related to the book you want to write, the comic you want to produce, or the manga you want to produce. Whatever project you want to produce out here, you're the only person who can get that project done. And it is going to be your passion and your heart that is going to get that project out there. And it's that passion and that heart that's going to get others to believe in what you're working on. Now, when you're on this journey to working on whatever project you want to work on, you're going to run into a lot of obstacles. And I ran into a lot of obstacles when I started getting serious about writing back in the 90s. And I did the first John Haynes novel. It was called The Changing Soul. And I was submitting queries to different publishers and literary agents. And all I got were a bunch of rejections. And I had to just keep pushing and hanging on, even though all I was getting was rejections. And I did that for several years. I just kept pushing and persevering because I believed in the story that I wrote, and I believed in everything that I put on the page. Now, that book, it didn't get anybody to pick it up, but I had learned from that was how the publishing industry worked. And then I went back and I wrote the first ISIS. Then I wrote the Cassandra Cookbook. And I still, even though I got rejections, I still kept persevering for what I wanted because this was a goal I had set for myself ever since I was about 9 years old. I said I wanted to write a book. And in 2002, I took $200 of my own money and I published the first ISIS back in 2002 with the print-on-demand publisher Virtual Bookworm. But even though it didn't get the great sales or be a bestseller, it allowed me to get that goal accomplished. And that was something that I wanted to do, but I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had just gave up on it. And you just can't give up on whatever dream you want to pursue. You have to keep persevering at it, even though things look really bad and things look really hard. You have to stay at it, because the more you work at it, eventually you will get some sort of break. It may not be, where you're getting New York Times bestseller numbers or New York Times bestseller, but you will have accomplished the goal of getting your book out there, or whatever you want to do. You will have gotten it done, and you will have accomplished what you want to accomplish. Now, again, when you're trying to pursue something like writing a book or doing a comic or doing a manga, you're going to run into a lot of people out there who will try to discourage you, and they will try to say things to you like, oh, nobody wants that, or nobody likes that. And you got to let that stuff really roll off you, because when the people say those type of things to try to discourage you, you have to believe in what you want to do, and you have to really stand by what you want to do. Because if you don't believe in what you're doing, then nobody else is going to support it. So you have to really believe in it to stay committed to it. Now, when I was, starting my writing career, I ran into, again, a lot of resistance from family members, from people outside. They all told me that, books from independent publishers, they don't sell. They told me books from independent publishers don't make money. But I still stayed with it because, again, I believed in my story, and I believed in my story because I wanted to get it out there and share it with the audience. So I believed in it, so I stayed with it. And again, even in the face of detractors, you have to stay with what you're doing, because you know that it's good, you believe that it's good, and if you believe that it's good, then you have to stay with it so that you can get what you want out of it, whether it be getting that book published, getting that comic made, or getting that manga printed. You have to stay with that project, because you see an end game or an end result or something tangible that you want to accomplish at the end of everything. I mean, this is something that I started back in 2002. And then in 2009, I wanted to build my own publishing imprint, because I had a screenplay all about Maryland I wanted to produce. And I couldn't do it through Virtual Bookworm because they didn't have the formatting for it. So I went out here and did it myself. And this was the first book I did over 10 years ago. And it's something that, again, I wouldn't have been able to do if I didn't believe in myself and stay dedicated to what I wanted to do. So that's something that you have to understand, is that, yeah, you're going to go out here, you have to go out here and you have to stand by what you're doing, because if you don't stand by it, no one else will stand up with you. And again, you're going to run into detractors in your family. You're going to run into detractors from your friends. They're going to be telling you, oh, why are you spending money on that? You shouldn't be wasting money on that. But you're not wasting money on that. What you're doing is following your dream, following your passion, and you're following that dream and that passion because you see something at the end of the road. But you have to have faith in God and faith in yourself so that you can get whatever you see at the end of the road. And you are, again, like Cool Gent 87 is saying, investing in something at the end of the day. You are investing, one, in yourself, and two, you are investing in your dream. So that's something that you have to see at the end of the day, whatever project you're doing, that this is an investment and it's going to pay off in two ways. One, it's going to pay off because you are working towards a goal you want to accomplish, which is something intangible, and then there's tangible, and you have a tangible accomplishment that you have produced, like one of these books, like I have for the SJS Direct imprint. I have the books because I have I kept pushing for the dream. And again, I had that dream ever since I was 9 years old, but I still stayed with it in spite of numerous obstacles that I've faced over the last 25, 30 years. And that road, again, is a very rough road. I remember starting in the 90s with the first John Haynes book, and that book, I couldn't publish it. But then what happened was, okay, I didn't get that one published. So I went and wrote another book, which was the first ISIS, submitted that, got lots of rejections, submitted the Cassandra Cookbook, got lots of rejections for that one. I got over 400 rejections for that book. And then when I did Temptation of John Haynes in 2005 or 2006, that book got over 500 rejections. But in the face of all of those rejections, I just kept pushing. And over time, what happened was, after I got all those rejections, eventually I wasn't even fazed by those rejections I remember about 2006, 2007, I wasn't even fazed by them. I remember I sent out a query letter to one of these agents, and they got back to me within about 10 minutes. And I just kept on working for what I wanted to work for. And I didn't even feel those rejections. And the same thing happened to me in the job market, where I have, again, put in over 10,000 applications and I still get rejections, but I still they don't even faze me anymore, because I'm working for what I want to work for, and I'm pushing towards what I want to push for. And the thing is, I don't let people discourage me, because I see something at the end of the road for what I want to accomplish. And I see myself, achieving my goals. It may not be the way I want to achieve those goals, where I wanted to have I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to have the best-selling book, but at least I am getting my work to the marketplace, and I'm getting my work in the hands of readers. It may not be a large audience of readers, but the readers that I do get do enjoy the books that I put out. They appreciate the books that I put out, and they learn from the books that I put out. So I can see how I am blessed to actually get these books to the marketplace. And again, that all comes from having the attitude and the mindset that says, I'm not going to give up on whatever I want to do. And that means that, you're going to face, again, all this resistance from people, because a lot of people, they don't have your vision. They don't have your perspective on things. All they see is the world in front of them. They don't have the faith to step out like you do. So they want to discourage you from going out from what you want, because they don't see anything that benefits them in the long term, because they want their world to remain smooth, where they get all of the benefits from you. But you have to understand that if you don't put that investment in yourself, no one else will. And the whole thing is, time is not on your side. I mean, as I saw it when I was younger, I said, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to ever be able to do it. And I remember in Hollywood Shuffle, where the guy talked about it, the barber was talking to Bobby Taylor about it, and he said, you have to do it when you're young. And I remember watching that movie at 15 years old. And that stayed with me, because I said, if I'm going to do something, I need to do it now, because you can't wait till later on. If you have stuff, you got to go out here and go for it, because God gives you one life out here, and you need to make that life count by going for what you want to go for when you get the chance to go for it, because you may not ever get another chance to go for something, or an opportunity to go out here and achieve whatever dream you want to achieve. So as I see it, when I listened to the two guys on on Facebook I was talking to, I had to give them words of encouragement because, you know, one guy, he wanted to give up on being a manga artist. And I said, no, you can't, got to stay with it, because even though you're going through a dark period, you got to stay with it, because this is your dream. This is your passion. And if you believe in it, you got to stay with it, even though things are hard. I remember on many books I've written, like The Man Crisis. I mean, there were periods where I got really frustrated writing this book and trying to get, the information down and trying to get things, just right in this book. I remember getting really frustrated. I wanted to quit writing this book altogether, but I stayed with it. And the reason why I stayed with it is because I wanted to see The Man Crisis help other men and transform their lives and help them achieve a higher quality of life. So I wanted to help men out, and I saw that was the goal I wanted for this book. So I didn't want to just give up and quit, even though I ran into a bit of resistance in myself. And I had to just sit there and say, look, I want to finish this book, and I need to finish this book. So I had to get past my own anxieties, my own fears, and my own feelings so that I could achieve what I wanted to do, which was finish this book. And I've had many other books where I wound up getting frustrated in the middle and I wanted to just quit, but I would stay with it because I wanted to finish what I started. I remember when I was writing The Temptation of John Haynes in 2005, I had the same issues where I got stuck in the middle, and I just said, I wanted to give this book up. I wanted to throw it somewhere. And you get that feeling sometime that you want to throw a book somewhere when you're writing it, when you're writing a manuscript sometimes, and sometimes even when you're drawing comic art or you're drawing a concept. I know how that feels. You get that frustration sometimes, and you really want because sometimes it's like you have all these ideas and you're trying to find a way to execute those ideas, and it's not coming out right like you want it to come out. So you sit there and you start to get a little discouraged because things aren't going the way you want them to, but you have to learn how to navigate through your emotions and say to yourself, okay, this isn't going the way I really wanted it to just yet, but I need to stay with it because there's something that I want to finish as related to the project. And the only way I'm going to get to the finish line is if I stay here and keep pushing. And with each step I take, I get closer and closer to the finish line. So you're not going to get to that finish line if you quit in the middle. And if you quit in the middle, then you're not just giving up on the project, you're actually giving up on yourself. And that's something that you shouldn't do, is give up on yourself, because if you start something, you need to believe in it enough to finish it. Because when you go out here and finish it, it's something that you can say is yours, something that you can have as tangible, and it's something that you can say is something that means something to you because you're doing this because it does mean something to you. And that's the reason why you go out here and pursue things like writing stories or creating comics or creating manga or going out here making music or acting. You're doing this because you love doing it, and you love doing it because it's just something that you want to share with the world. And you're not going to be able to share it if you give up. And if you give up, then you aren't going to be able to do, again, what you wanted to do. And again, I've run into, all of those rejections over the last 25 years where people, publishing industry told me no. And I've had, even when I published my own books, I had people in my own family who did not like the All About Marilyn cover because it featured a nude. They got mad and they wanted to hate the book because of that. And I remember when I got a radio show to help promote this book, family members got angry at me talking about I wanted to go to Hollywood, not understanding that it was a online radio, and they thought, that he was going to go to Hollywood because he wrote a screenplay, because he was getting feedback. But they didn't understand that I was trying to do something for myself and accomplish something, but I didn't let that deter me, even though they had sabotaged me on trying to get this book on that radio show. I did not let that stop me. So that was back in 2010 or so. And here I am 10 years later, still running the SJS Direct imprint and still publishing books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the 2019 catalog books, like John Haynes' Dark Succubus, Isis, All That Glitters, and Esteem Goddess of, and the 2020 books like the John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. I mean, 10 years later, I'm still publishing in spite of that setback and other setbacks I have received. I mean, I remember, when I first started the Isis series and I had hand-drawn covers, and even when I did Temptation of John Haynes and I was doing my own covers, these feminists and other people, they would take my covers and put them on lousy book cover, websites to be nasty. But I still persevered because this book, The Temptation of John Haynes, which they wanted to talk about, a so-called lousy book cover, is one of my most critically acclaimed books. And it's a critically acclaimed book because people looked past the cover and looked at the content of the writing. And I've gotten about 7 book reviews on Amazon as a result. And I got those reviews, again, because people read the book and saw how solid it was. And again, you have to take the victories that you have, no matter how small they are, and you have to appreciate all the small victories that you get, because it's not the greatest of victories that's going to get you somewhere. It's something small that can lead to something big. And again, I've had numerous setbacks, again, like the family member who sabotaged me when I was trying to do the All About Maryland radio promotion. And when I went to the Harlem Book Fair and I lost about $1,500 going to 2 Harlem book fairs because I tried to sell books to the Black community and it just didn't work. And I've had numerous, again, setbacks and stuff like that, but I just don't let it discourage me because, again, I see something greater at the end of the day, whether it be me getting to actually do things like publish my own books or get my stuff out there and share it with whoever wants to have it. That's what's a goal for me. And again, that's where the victories are. They're small victories, but they are great to me because I was able to get my stuff out there. Now, again, I've had setbacks again. I remember back in 2013, 2014, people, again, were complaining about the ISIS covers and trying to be nasty, and they put the beauty myth on a lousy book cover list. And I had to deal with all that. And I took my parts of my toy collection to eBay and I sold stuff off so I could pay for the Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess cover. And even after I had published this book, I was still getting people being nasty to me, talking about the people on the cover aren't Black enough and that I was color struck and light skin and dark skin. And they didn't look at the work and the sacrifice that I had made, taking stuff out of my toy collection, selling it on eBay, and making that sacrifice to get this dream accomplished, put a quality cover on the book because you're complaining about the quality of the covers. I go out, put a quality cover on the book, and then people, again, went to attack me. And then on top of it, this book, it just didn't sell. And that was a heartbreaker for me. And again, this was something that could have discouraged a lot of people out there, seeing that, I just went out here, I sacrificed stuff that I liked and meant a lot to me to pay an artist to do the cover. And then people telling you that people aren't Black enough on the cover, and then people not buying the book. That would make a lot of people, quit doing what they do, and it would make them give up. But it didn't make me give up. It just made me, continue to push forward. And I continued to push forward. And even though I didn't have much money, I still continued to go out here because before I even went to eBay, I had tried to do a Kickstarter to get this cover, and that Kickstarter failed. And the whole thing was I just kept persevering because this meant something to me, and it meant something to myself, to go out here and do something. And that's why I stayed in the game. And the whole thing is, you have to stay in the game if you want to do something, even though you are running into all of these obstacles, even though you're running into resistance from family, even though you're running into resistance from friends, even though you're running to resistance from people online, you can't give up on what you want to work on, and you can't give up on what you believe you're going to get at the end of the day. What's going on, Daryl, Phil, and Dylan DeJesus and Supremo and Kay Walker? Glad to see you here at the live stream. I wanted to give some words of encouragement to several of my manga and comic fans out there, comic pros out there who are starting out, because I know where they've been, because I've walked down this road, and this is a really rough road. Being a writer out here, you have to deal with a lot of criticism. You have to deal with a lot of people who are resistant and are against you and want to tell you to give up. And that you got to let that stuff roll off you, because if you let that stuff sink into you, what it's going to do is it's going to affect your mind. It's going to affect your psyche. And what it's going to do is make you give up on what you want to do. And it's going to make you give up on your dream. And you should never give up on your dream, because in this life, again, God has given every one of us a purpose, and we need to work towards that purpose. And we shouldn't let anyone discourage you, because God will make a way for you, to do what you need to do. And I remember, as I was doing the ISIS series after I did, Wrath of the Cyber Goddess and the cover, and all that drama. And then I did another Kickstarter for Night of the Vampires, and God blessed me to have a brother come out here, and he donated to the Kickstarter for that book's cover. And that was a surprise to me, but it just showed me the power of God and how he can work things out, as related to things. So he showed me that, if you continue to push at it, you can still get somewhere. And that Kickstarter was successful. I'm going to leave a link to all my books on Amazon in the chat. So, I still stayed with that, and that made me stay at it. And then about a year or two later, 2016, I was going to delay Samurai Goddess, but then all of a sudden a sister came along and she donated the money, because she saw my blog and she saw, the story. She's like the covers that Bill Walker was designing for books in the ISIS series. So she donated some money, and I put some of my own money together, and that enabled me to get, Samurai Goddess to the marketplace, because she donated the money. And again, it just showed me how God can work in somebody's life, if you hang in there and you stay in there and continue to push for whatever you want to pursue. And again, I just kept staying at it, and I kept hanging on to it, because I had a mission that I dedicated to myself at 17 years old. I said I wanted to create positive Black stories about the Black culture, the Black community. And I said, if I don't make these stories, nobody else will. And when I look at the mainstream media these days, and I look at all the media images where you get these Black men in dresses, you get these effeminized Black men, these images and stories of Black women promoting all of this swirling and interracial, media. I thank God that I was given the opportunity, to go out here and build the SJS Direct imprint. And this was something that I thank God I was blessed to do, because when I look at the media stage, there aren't that many media platforms that create positive stories about the Black experience out there. And I thank God I was able to go out here and do it. And Akun makes a good point that, yeah, people can disguise anything as constructive criticism. And a lot of those people who want to talk about constructive criticism, sometimes you got to watch it, because some of those people are jealous out here. And because they're jealous because they see you out here pursuing your dream, they see you happy and pursuing your passion, and they want to bring you down to their level. And you can't let people bring you down to their level. You have to stay high on your level and deal with those who want to come up to your level. So you can't let everybody discourage you, with their so-called constructive criticism, because I've run into that in the writing community, because there's a lot of writers out there. They disguise their jealousy through constructive criticism, because true constructive criticism offers a solution, whereas jealousy is all about talking about the problem. So oftentimes you have people who talk about they're constructively critical, but they're actually jealous of you, and they're jealous of what you are working on because they can't work on it. So they want to try to take shots at you as related to it. But constructive criticism oftentimes, again, offers solutions, and it offers you, ways to make your work better, because the person isn't being personal. But people who are jealous, they want to get personal and they want to get nasty. Amir, you're going to be taking a class on creative fiction writing. That's congratulations. That's a great start. And any advice for a complete beginner? Well, you have to, again, really stay at it, because writing fiction is a lot of hard work. And I urge you to go pick up Sid Field's screenplay and Robert McKee's story. And I also urge you to do a lot of reading, because writing fiction, it looks like it's easy, but oftentimes you have to really pull yourself back sometimes, because sometimes you have a sequence that you are feeling, but it doesn't make any logical sense. And sometimes I remember when I was writing Eternal Night just this last year and this year, there were a lot of things that I liked putting into this novel, but then it didn't make any logical sense, and I had to pull back. And as I was writing the story, I had to pull some of those ideas back, because they just did not work when I put them on the page. So it's going to be again, writing fiction is going to be a lot of work. And again, you're also going to have periods where you're going to want to throw this book in a corner somewhere, because it's going to frustrate you, because you can start a book, and the starting part is the hard part, because that's when you're just getting your ideas on the page. And the start is harder than the finish. I mean, the finish, you might be really easy, because again, with Eternal Night, it was like really easy doing the finish, but the start was the hardest part, because the start is where you're starting to lay the foundation for your story. And you got to start answering those critical questions, like, who is the main character? What do they want to do? What are the obstacles in their way? And most importantly, why should we care? So those are the toughest questions to answer. And you have to start laying the foundation for answering those questions in the start of the book. And the start is the hardest part, because you're laying out the main character, the conflict, and the obstacles. And that if you don't lay that structure out in a way that's easy to understand, it can be very hard for you to get through finishing the book. So the best thing to do when you're, again, starting is, sometimes it's best to have an outline. I had that for Spinsterella, and I had it for Eternal Night. And I wrote out, all the I synopsized all the things I wanted to do. That's also another thing you can do. But it's going to be, you can have a lot of fun writing a book, but you have to, again, stay with it. And again, there's going to be periods where you're going to get real frustrated at it. You want to throw it in the corner, but you can't give up on it. And you have to keep pushing at that story until you get to the finish line. What's my tip for avoiding writer's block? Well, sometimes writer's block comes from two things, Don. It comes from, you having too many thoughts going too fast. And then what happens is your brain just winds up not being able to process all that information all at one time. And it creates a bottleneck in your brain. That's one way you get writer's block. Sometimes you get writer's block because, you don't have a comprehensive understanding of what you wanted to put down on the page. So in that case, you need to do research. And sometimes you're just too in front of the keyboard. And when you've been in front of the keyboard too long, sometimes you just need to step away from the keyboard in order for the ideas to flow. I remember back in 2013, when I was about to write Isis the Beauty Myth, my brain got stuck and I wanted to do the story, but I got this notice for federal jury duty, and I got angry because I got this notice for jury duty. So I wanted to I didn't want to go to jury duty. I wanted to do the story. But it turned out going to jury duty was the best thing that ever happened to me, because when I got there, I got into a different environment. I was able to breathe. I was able to relax. And when I was able to relax, what happened was my brain started opening up again, and I was able to finish the entire story within a week. So the Isis the Beauty Myth story, this was a story that it's considered one of the best stories in the Isis series by many readers. But the whole thing is that if I hadn't gone to jury duty, I would have never gotten the idea to, the words for that story. And that's all because I went to jury duty and cleared my mind. Oh, great, Daryl. I'm glad you got out of jury duty. You guys can pick up Isis the Beauty Myth on Amazon. I'm getting ready to do a refresh cover for Isis the Beauty Myth. I'm just waiting on the artist to get back to me. And the whole thing was that sometimes you got to step away from the keyboard and just go outside and walk around, go to different places. This really helps with your writing. It helps you become a better writer. It happens sometimes. Sometimes with that, it happens where you go outside. Sometimes you can just get inspiration by going outside and taking a moment away from the keyboard, because a lot of people think as a writer you can just sit there all day long, in front of this keyboard. But if you sit there all day long in front of that keyboard, it's going to make you crazy. That's why sometimes I just go get away from the keyboard. And I remember like 2014, 2015, I started going to the library, and going to the library was one of the best things I ever did for myself, because that enabled me to get outside and, see people and see different things. And going to the library is something that a writer needs to do, just go outside. Yeah, they've got free Wi-Fi over there, and you can just sit there and relax, and you can clear your mind and helps you relax. That's interesting, Mike. Mike Williams is the artist who designs the covers for the John Haynes series. And he designed Dark Succubus and A Conversation with Death's cover. And he also designed the legendary Mad Matilda's cover. He comes up with this script. He said when he went to bed and then got up at night and jotted down. I've had that happen where I got ideas at night when I went to bed, and then all of a sudden I got inspired and I started writing in the middle of the night. That's happened to me. I remember I was doing Night of the Vampires. That happened to me. I had one ending set up, and then when I went to bed, all of a sudden this other line came to me, and I got out of bed and I turned on the computer and I finished. I put that new line in because I thought, oh, I can't wait until tomorrow morning, because sometimes what happens is when you get the idea, you have to go with it because you're not going to remember it in the next morning. So sometimes I get ideas at night when I'm going to bed, and then all of a sudden I just get up and I put it down on paper. I put it in the computer so that I can get it done. So Simply Deep 1985. I did wrestling videos. I may do a wrestling live stream in the future. It depends, but because I'm a wrestling fan. But I might do one around the time of Isis the Main Event, which is coming April, and I may do one before that. So I may do a wrestling stream sooner rather than later. I want to do another goth stream, but the subject matter, I don't know if people are going to get offended by it. I was going to explore these stereotypes around that sexualization and fetishization in the goth subculture, and I wanted to do that one, but I was afraid of offending women in the scene. But that was something that I am planning, because I'm planning a goth live stream soon. I just want to be able to know if it's done, because after the whole passport thing, I'm just afraid to do certain subjects. But I'm still going to go out here and again continue persevering. And again, I encourage people to continue persevering, for what you want to go for, because I see so many, again, comic artists and comic pros, and again, they don't understand it's a rough road, but it's a road. Even though it's rough, you still have to hang in there, because again, the only person who's going to get that dream of yours to be in comics or get a book published is you. Simply Deep 1985. The best women's division so far that I have seen, the old TNA knockouts were very good, and I like what I'm seeing in NWA. Even though they have a small roster, NWA's women's matches are very solid. AEW has some decent talent putting on good matches, but they don't have a story. But NWA right now has a pretty solid women's division as related to the booking. I do still read as a writer. Yes, because you as a writer you have to read all the time. I mean, writers, we have to read. In order for me to put together, stories, I have to do research. And as a writer, if you don't research, your details aren't gonna come across as accurate or be relatable. I remember I did a lot of reading for the Spinsterella trilogy, in addition to watching, the YouTube videos of numerous goths. I had to do research into the subculture and get to know the music and get to know the bands and get to know the meanings behind the songs, because that's where I got most of the information. I read everything. I read everything from fiction to nonfiction. I read screenplays. I've read comic book scripts. I read all sorts of stuff because you can get ideas from all sorts of different stories, Don. And I read lots of things. I've been reading comics again, and I bought a lot of comics from different brothers. I remember Anime NYC. I bought some comics and I read those comics. I still read lots of comics still, and but I read lots of stuff. I mean, news articles. It's like, and again, I've read a lot of, and I used to read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of Black women's fiction back in the day, and that's how I learned how to write. Heroines and stuff like that, was reading a lot of Black women's fiction. So I read a lot of different things, and it really helps with your writing. And that's one of the things you have to do as a writer, is you have to do a lot of reading, because that's going to help your story become richer and multidimensional. It's going to immerse the reader into the world and see that world and, be a part of it. Glad to see you here, Omio. Glad to see you here. How do you make an extremely masculine story about a certain period, location? You can make that. Don't worry about offending people, because they're going to be offended no matter what. So you may as well write what you want. And if you believe in it, you just write what you want. I remember when I was developing the screenplays for a show called All About Nikki, the fabulous first season. I made that book. That book has all sorts of. It's about this spoiled, rotten girl from Beverly Hills who says all sorts of outrageous and offensive things. And I didn't care about offending people. I mean, I just wanted to tell the story. I'm going to leave a link to All About Nikki in the chat. That book was actually one of my best-selling books. I mean, people bought that book all over the world, and I didn't care about offending anyone. And people loved that All About Nikki book. And I actually got somebody who actually wanted to turn it into a TV show, but the deal fell through. But the whole thing is, if you believe in your story, you go out here and put out your story. Don't worry about offending people, because when I did Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, I wasn't expecting to offend people because of Isis's skin tone, but they're going to be offended no matter what they are. I mean, people are going to be offended. So you just can't care about them. You have to just focus on what you want to do. I wish Milestone would come back, Kevin. I wish it would come back. Kay Walker, I haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, and I don't think I ever will. The way they did the Star Wars mythology and lore, I'm absolutely disgusted by it. So I'm not going to even bother with Rise of Skywalker, because to me, Rey has no connection to the Skywalkers whatsoever. And the sad part is, the way they did the expanded universe, they disregarded all the expanded universe stories, and then you want to bring in concepts from expanded universe. That really offended me. So I'm not going to even bother with Rise of Skywalker after all the disaster I saw with Last Jedi. Now, again, getting back to the subject, with comics again and writing, it's a hard road. But again, you may not get a lot of support from people, from your immediate community or your immediate family, but cherish the support that you get from the people who do read your work and the people who do go out here and do things like give you reviews and things like that. I mean, that's something that can encourage you. And again, you can't get discouraged, even though you're not getting, big numbers or big money or anything like that, but you're not doing that for, big money or, big sales. I mean, sometimes a small sale can mean a lot because that book means something to them. I remember, I've had brothers come to me on the man crisis. I've had so many people come to me and say that this book, changed their lives or transformed their lives. And the same thing with Stop Simping, those books have helped so many men, and Misadventures of Captain Save 'em. Those books have helped a lot of people. And I'm happy and grateful to hear that from people. I mean, people have written me letters and emails and told me that, and that meant a lot to me. And again, I wouldn't have gotten that type of feedback if I had given up all those years ago. I definitely, whenever you publish Deke Sledge, The Gray Man, I definitely want to pick up a copy of it. And I definitely am going to try to promote it. If I have internet at the time, I'm going to promote it. I'm definitely going to pick it up and promote it. So that's something I do because I like Deke Sledge. It's one of the best comic strips out there. Features a strong masculine hero and a very positive story. So I definitely want to promote it the same way I promoted many other comics out there, because if we don't make those comics, nobody else will. And we don't get that many great black heroes out here. And Deke Sledge is a great black hero, and you definitely want to try pick up that strip. You want to check it out. I mean, I might try to find a link to it so you guys can start. Here's the link to Deke Sledge so you can start reading it before. Have I looked into freelance writing? Yeah, I have done freelance writing. I did some articles for numerous places. I had a column at Onyx Link at one time. Did something for a website called Stop the Coonery, and I also did some for the Negro Manosphere with O'Shea Duke Jackson. Yeah, I've done freelance writing before, but the gigs don't come that often, so I don't usually focus on them. I'm usually focused on my own projects, but I have done freelance projects in the past. And if I got those offers, I would take those offers, Don. If I got those offers, I would take them, but I don't get them that often. So I just focus on things like the SJS Direct 2020 catalog and, getting those books out here, like John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, and which you can pre-order today on Kindle. I'm going to leave a link to John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. You're welcome, Mike. I want more people to read Deke Sledge, so wanted to share it with people. So that was something I'm glad to do, because the more people who check out your strip, the more people will come and pick up the graphic novel later on. But it's a great strip, and I want to see more people reading it. So with John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, we not only have a regular cover for both the paperback and the Kindle editions, but we also, Mike Williams did a cover for the regular, but there's also a variant done by Josh Howard as well. So you want to pre-order the Nothing to Lose books. You can pick either book's cover, and that's what I'm doing for the 10th anniversary of SJS Direct, is that John Hayes has two covers, and I'm giving you the Turning Point and the ISIS, the main event, and I'm getting ready to do an E-Steam comic strip, in the back of the E-Steam book. That was supposed to be the big surprise. I'm just waiting to see when Bill Walker finishes with it. But that was the big surprise, is there's going to be an E-Steam comic strip, which is going to lead into the, hopefully, the ISIS graphic novel. So that's what I'm planning for this year for the 10th anniversary of SJS Direct. But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me persevering, and continuing to push, even in the face, again, of numerous, all the obstacles I talked about. I didn't let that stuff discourage me, and I didn't let me, give up. I didn't give up in the face of it. I just kept learning whatever mistakes that I made, and I kept persevering, even though I had, made some mistakes and managed and had some failures and had some setbacks. I still kept going for what I wanted, because I remember even when I lost my job in 2008 and God told me to keep going, I still kept going. And here I am again, 10 years later, 10, 12 years later, I'm still, out here, and I've written over, 70 books now. And a lot of them, I was going to stop after Temptation of John Hayes. It was going to be finished, but I still kept going. And I remember when God told me I didn't know I was capable of doing back in 2009. And I look at it now, again, almost over 70 books. And it was, I wouldn't have been able, again, to do that if I didn't continue to, stay in there. And again, I look at my friends here on Facebook who are working on projects right now, and I wanted to give them those words of encouragement, because you can achieve this if you want to, but you've got to stay in there, and hang in there, because nothing is going to come if you give up. If you give up, nothing's going to come of it. But Don, I haven't gotten any offers to write movies. I mean, after I wrote the All About Maryland screenplay, I didn't get any. I mean, one guy asked me on a live stream, on Friday, he asked me, what were my rates for a screenplay, but that was about it. But I haven't heard from them again. But anybody who wants to go hire me for a screenplay, I'll be glad to do it for them. But my rates are going to be up there. So, because I know that screenplays, you get 3 to 5% of the production budget, and also you need to be paid up front. So you need to get your money on a screenplay, because screenplays are a lot of work. I mean, I did this one in about 2006, 2007, and it was a lot of work. And then I spent, about 2 years doing revisions, and it was a lot of work doing this one. And even then, when I entered the screenplay contest, still ran into things. But the whole thing was, people who read this screenplay loved this screenplay, and they loved the story. I mean, people love this story, but the whole thing is, it couldn't get a green light for it. But that was a major challenge. But if somebody asked me to write them a script, I would love to write them a script, but it's just going to cost some money. That the thing with the ISIS E-Steam crossover, that was Night of the Vampires and E-Steam Undercover. That was what I did in 2015 with the Kickstarter that the brother, he helped contribute to, and that was a blessing to do. But again, wouldn't have been able to do that without God putting it on that brother's heart to do that. And that helped me continue to keep pushing, towards the books of the 2015 catalog, because I remember after I did that one, that's when I launched Spinsterella, and that book got a lot of positive feedback. So that was the crossover. I'm gonna put that link to that in the chat, but I just kept on going with it. And you have to keep going with it. And yeah, some of the times it's going to be like, it's going to feel like it's like nothing's coming, nothing's going to work out. But you just got to stay with it, because the only way to get to the finish line is if you keep pushing to the finish line. And sometimes when you're trying to push to the finish line, that's when you run into all of these obstacles, and then you run into these obstacles from yourself. And then you can become your own worst enemy. And the worst thing to be is your own worst enemy, because that's when you start wanting to just give up, and you start wanting to quit, and you start getting that point, and you're like, oh man, this is not going to go nowhere. It's not going to go nowhere. but things are going somewhere. And as long as you keep pushing further and further, you are going to get to that goal. And again, you have to stay with it, even in the face of all of that, because at the end of the day, it's about you accomplishing what you want to accomplish and not letting others discourage you or let others make you want to give up on your dreams, because you have to remember, this is your dream, this is your life. And again, you get one life on God's earth, you get one chance at life. So you should make the most of that life by going out here and going for what you want and and focusing and pushing to get what you want. So that's what you need to do. If you're a comic book artist, a sci-fi writer, a fantasy writer, a manga artist, I mean, you have to keep pushing for what you want to do, keep striving for what you want, and at the end of this day, that if you keep going for it, you're going to get it. It may not be exactly the way you want to get it. You may not get, superstar fame. You may not get a best-selling product, but you're going to get something hard and tangible that you produce, like I produce with these SJS Direct books. They are hard, tangible products, again, that I created because I went out here and, again, I believed in my work. And you have to believe in your work the exact same way, because when you believe in your work, you can encourage others to believe in your work. And you can go out here and you believe in your work, and they'll start feeling your energy and your enthusiasm. And because they feel your energy and your enthusiasm, that's going to lead to them wanting to pick up your work and share your work. And that's going to lead to people wanting to support your work and the work that you do. I'm going to get ready to wrap up this stream, and I'm going to ask everybody to pick up some of the books of the SJS Direct imprint. And also, if you want to see me make more streams like this, you can donate to the Patreon by clicking the links in the chat and the Cash App, because that helps me pay for the internet that allows me to do these streams. But again, I want everybody to know, don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on what you want to work for, because what you want to work for is important to you. And if you believe in it, you can get others to believe in it as well. And you can go out here and do what you believe in and follow your passion, because if you are following your passion, God will make a way for your passion to become something tangible and real, like these SJS Direct books. And I urge you all to pick up some of these books. And I thank you all for coming to the stream. And I hope you'll be there for Friday's stream when I announce it.